and she travels to at least 50 cities each year while still operating her business. You guys, I cannot, she's like curling in a ball. I can see her as I'm talking. I love this woman. I'm grateful to call her a friend, but I'm so glad you're here. It makes me sad that there's not more people here because she is a wealth of knowledge, and I hope you bring questions, because I know we're experienced investors in this group, but you can always learn something from someone, and this is somebody that you can learn from. So LaDonna, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much.
I love you too. That made my heart palpitate. Now I'm getting sweaty.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know. I make you do that. LaDonna, let's start by talking a little bit of where you're tuning in from and why.
Specifically, I am tuning in from the back seat of my rental car.
Yes.
Because I woke up about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and decided I was going to go on a 30-day road trip. I used to fly a lot. We were self-quarantined, which was great. I enjoyed being home. But then it got really hot in South Florida, really hot. And then after it got really hot, the bugs showed up. So I'm like, I got to go. So I'm like, let's just rent a car and let's go on a 30-day road trip. Now, a couple things. I don't like driving. I typically won't drive more than 3 hours. I actually rented an SUV. I don't like SUVs. And yesterday, as I was on my road trip, I realized you're going on a 30-day road trip in an SUV. I'm like, that seems to make sense. So here I am. I am in a small town called Quincy, Florida, because this is where I could get Wi-Fi.
Okay. And I love that, most people would be like, let me go and rent a super economical car for my adventures. But no, LaDonna's like, no, because she's also in an accountability group for what? So you have a what?
Okay. So I can't even imagine, Melanie, what you're going to have to do to prepare 7 people to go on a road trip, because this was one person. I rented I call it the Mama Bear. It's a mid-size SUV. I didn't want the small one. My whole thing is with not driving a lot, I don't typically drive a lot. I didn't want to be the small car on the road. I feel like I needed to have like a presence, but I didn't want to be the Suburban where I couldn't park my car because I would just leave it in the road and go. So I'm in a mid-size SUV, but in here I have so much stuff. I mean, I could probably survive in here for a year, but I call it my go bag, where I could just take that in and go to a friend's house or a hotel. But then I got the big suitcase that's got all the stuff in it. But then I've got like a cooler baggy thing that's got like cheeses and fruits in it. And then I got my little snack bag that's got nuts and jerky in it, a case of water, and a weight scale, because I'm in an accountability group where I have to weigh in every 2 days.
Hey, I like your commitment to your accountability group. That's awesome. That's so funny. So sorry, guys, we're doing this interview style. I hope that's okay. If not, just email me and say, you know what, I miss the old style. Stop talking so much, and I'll do it. I promise. But the other day we were like quarantining, like great quarantining, and then all of a sudden, 9:30 at night, my sister shows up and knocks on my door. Y'all, we live in North Carolina. She lives in Utah. And I'm like, What are you doing here? What are you doing here? And she was like, look, I bought an RV 2 days ago and now we're here. And I was like, what are you doing at my door? It was crazy. Anyways, she ended up staying for 3 weeks. And then if you saw on my Instagram and Facebook, I can't use the word kidnap because I feel terrible that I offended somebody when I use that word, but she took my 2 oldest kids back to Utah with her. So I don't know, I probably need to go pick them up at some point. So I'm grateful. That brings us to our topic of lifestyle by design. I'm grateful for a lifestyle that when quarantine happens or whatever happens, that we have businesses set up. And if you don't have business set up, that you could leave if you wanted to, when there's bugs, when there's heat. That is something that you might, if you're interested in doing it, that's what we're going to talk about today. Right. Anyways, I kind of got off track with the RV, guys. But now, first question, okay? Again, if you guys have questions, submit them in the chat, okay? First question, LaDonna, why do you think most people don't achieve the level of success that they want?
That's an excellent and great question. And I actually spent a lot of time thinking about that. I would say about a year, well, actually 2 years ago, I took a year and a half off and really kind of pondered like what makes a successful person successful. And I've got quite a few mentors and coaches that I check in with on a regular basis. And one of my mentors, we had this deep discussion, and if I can share my screen, I'll pull that spiral up.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. And it's because we make decisions from a place of fear. And once, I think the biggest thing you can do is acknowledge that be aware of it. You'll be surprised how many times a day you make a decision from the emotion of fear. And if we can get people to acknowledge that they're doing it, recognize it, then we can move them out of that space and move them up the spiral. So the spiral here is kind of, where are you on the spiral on a daily basis? Where are you making decisions from? And the goal, we all want it to be up here. I'll make it a little bit, if I can make it a little bit bigger. Up here, you got joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. So, you've got these beautiful words up here: passion, enthusiasm, positive belief, optimism. And about here is where I want to always try and be above the line. So I always say I want to go into the blues and purples. You get down to, like, hopefulness to me is giving control to someone else. You hope it's going to work out. You're going to try to do it. You're giving yourself an opportunity to fail. And you do it because you're afraid you're going to fail. So if you look through all these emotions, you look at boredom, worry, blame, anger, revenge, jealousy, we get down here to the bottom and you've got fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and victim. And what I have found in talking, like, I extensively spent time that year talking to successful people who were stuck, people who were successful, but they couldn't get to the next level up. And I would ask them, why do you think it is? Tell me about the decisions you're making. And it would always come back to, they were making decisions out of fear of, what if I fail? What if someone judges me? Like, what if I make this decision and my family doesn't approve, or my friends don't approve, or, what if I'm actually successful and now I've got to deal with that? So learning how to not make decisions from a place of fear. And what I did is, like, I feel like I'm pretty good. I spend a lot of time up here in joy and freedom and passion and enthusiasm. But even I can come down the scale a bit. I can get overwhelmed. And so what I do is I think I'm more now aware of when I'm not in these higher emotions, and I do a state change. I literally have, it's a headband, and I snap it and I smile and I move up the scale of emotion, the spiral of emotion. So I really feel that if we could work, and I do, so I have clients that I'm working with this lifestyle by design, and this is where we start. I start with, let's talk about what decisions you're making, what decisions you're not making, and how we can get you to make decisions from a better emotion. A lot of people, when they are in a place of fear, the typical response is to not make a decision at all. And, unfortunately, whether you choose to make a decision or not, a decision has been made. You're not making it, someone else is making it for you. So let's, take back that control and get you to where you want to be.
I love that. So you've done a lot in real estate, like a ton.
Yeah.
What would you say, if you don't mind sharing, maybe let's share one of the hardest things that you've ever had happen on a project, and then also one of your greatest accomplishments that you're proud of.
Okay, great questions. Let's go with greatest accomplishments. I think, honestly, one of the first greatest accomplishments is just getting started, just deciding to do it. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't care that I didn't know. I'm like, I'll figure it out. And, going out and making offers and not being, Milana, I love to say, like, fire, ready, aim, like, just go out and take action. You'll learn so much more from taking action than getting ready to get started to get going. I know so many of my analytical friends, like, I need to know everything. I'm like, you'll never know everything. Like, the best way to, if you really want to know everything, just start doing the business. Go make an offer, go talk to a seller, go inspect the house, go estimate repairs. My first 6 months in the business, I would go meet with sellers, and they would have, and I literally, they were like, what about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, but I'll find out. And so they'd ask the next question. I don't know, but I'll find out. And I got so much, I was saying it so much, Milani, I couldn't even say it anymore. I was just like, IDK. Like, I can't, like, I'm exhausted by saying I don't know. I'm like, IDK. And I can remember about 6 months in, but again, this is me meeting with sellers on a regular basis, maybe 20, 25 sellers a week. I walked out of a house and I was like, I didn't say I don't know. Like the first time, like I actually knew all the answers to her question, but it took me 6 months to get there, from going IDK to I'll figure it out and I'll call you back to nailed it. So I would say biggest accomplishment is getting started, because once you just start taking action, again, you get over that fear of what if I do it wrong? What if you do it wrong? I've done a lot of things. I still do stuff wrong, but let us help, let the mentors in the business help you show how to make mistakes safely. But you learn so much more from the mistake. So like, go ahead and make a mistake and celebrate the wins. I like champagne. I had a girlfriend, she lost a big chunk of money on a deal, and we celebrated that lesson with champagne. Like, it's a learning lesson. You'll probably never make that mistake again. Let's celebrate.
LaDonna is so good at that. And then I'm going to let you get to one of the hardest things while you're thinking about one of your hardest things. LaDonna was my mentor from the beginning, one of my mentors from the beginning, and one of my coaches from the beginning, actually. But it was last year that when I was going through some stuff that I needed the wake up call, and I was down here on the spiral, and she had this attitude, just like she just said, of, oh my gosh, let's celebrate that you had such an awesome educational experience. And I was like, but I just want to curl in a ball and cry. Like let's just, I don't know, maybe this is a mommy thing, but if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out, I just wanted to be sadness right now.
Sadness.
I just wanted to be sadness. Stop. Joy. LaDonna is joy. And I'm like, I don't want you here right now. But she taught me, as she has many times, an amazing lesson of welcome to the business. Like, this is how we roll. Let's celebrate it and let's move on, because there's money to be made out there, and it's free for the taking. It's not really free for the taking. It's
there for the for the taking.
That's exactly right. And if you guys didn't catch it, one of her catchphrases that I actually had to text her the other day, and I was like, what is that thing you always say? And I've often heard her say, fire, ready, aim. Instead of, most people say ready, aim, fire.
What's the other way to say it?
What do those other people say? Usually people say ready, aim, fire, but LaDonna is a fire, ready, aim kind of person. And I'm sure she's going to tell us one of the hardest parts that she's had in real estate. But I think it's a line that you've got to find for yourself of when is it, you've got to do your due diligence for sure. But at the same time, you've also got to be ready. You've just got to fire and then say that I don't knows until you know. So that's going to be my next question. So I'm like queuing you up for the next question, whichever one you want to answer first. I want to hear your hardest trial you've had in real estate, but then also how do you find that balance of doing due diligence, but also just get at it. Just fire, ready, aim.
So we'll go to those, but first, I would actually highly recommend the movie Inside Out. Is one of my favorite movies. I know it's an animated movie, but it's got such an amazing life lesson. And, I was talking with another friend about it who had kids, and he like, I saw a different movie than you saw. Cause I'm like, I took away, like the whole time in the movie, sadness is just such a joy kill. And, she's touching memories and making them sad. But at the end, you realize it can't be all rainbows and unicorns. If you want to be a developed, mature human, you have to experience all the emotions. You can't appreciate the good if you've never had bad. So like when you want to crawl up in a ball, but just don't do it for like a week. Let it out, cry it out, do whatever you got to do, and then move back up the spiral and get to a place of joy. Because when you're in that space, you're not making good decisions, you're not taking action, and you're perpetuating that emotion. And it's good to have experienced it. You just don't want to stay there. So try to bridge the gap and make that experience as short as possible. But know that you can't have all good. It can't be all rainbows and unicorns.
Yes. And thank you. Kathy wrote in the chat books, if anybody has one of their greatest challenges, I'd love to, if you feel comfortable sharing, what's one of the greatest challenges you felt in real estate? Type it in the chat box while LaDonna's telling us about hers.
Okay. So mine would be, and it's an odd one. So let me think so the best way to phrase it is I got into a bad business partnership. And the reason I got into a bad business partnership is I feel I was a little bit pressured because it was someone I was dating. And I had been doing the business for quite some time. he kind of wanted to tag along. I didn't really need him as a business partner, but because I wanted to grow our love relationship, I allowed him to come in and be a business partner. If he had not been a love interest, he would not have been, he wasn't a good business partner. You know, the parts of the business he was supposed to do, he was a huge procrastinator, which caused a big cog in the business. And at the time we were doing like 8 to 10 rehabs at a time. And so you can't have, you know, half the business shut down because someone's not doing it. And then, you know, to approach him with it, you know, just would agitate him, and, you know, he would just get very defensive. And I took on a business partner that I should have never taken on. And then I stayed in it for a year longer than I should have stayed in it, which cost me, honestly, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So lesson learned. I'd say the lesson I would ask other people, again, a lot of times I see, and especially with students that I've coached, is they partner out of fear. Like, well, if I'm going to jump off the bridge and the bridge is burning, I want someone to go down with me. I'm like, partner with someone who brings qualities you don't have. Like if you're a dot the I, cross the T type of person, then partner with the big picture person, and vice versa. I'm a big picture person. He was a dot the I's and cross the T's. And so I gave him that part of the business. And I could see it wasn't going well, but when I would approach him about it, he would get very defensive, and I allowed him to, because he was an interest in another part of my life. I'm not afraid to fire someone or, you know, part ways, but I had this different tie to this person. So that's my biggest one, but it can be applied to business partnerships in general.
Yeah. Oh, that's an awesome one. And I think this is people in general, right? This isn't just experienced real estate investors, that it's, if you've built something up, it's kind of like my first entity that I created a decade ago, my husband's like, honey, it's time to let it go. And it's like, we're paying taxes on it. We're paying renewal fees. We don't use it at all. And it's had its ups, but it's had a lot of downs too. And he's like, it's time to just get rid of it. Like, but I'm like, that's my baby. Like, this relationship, you had done good things, but you've also done some crappy things. And it's like, it's time to cut. But I don't know, I hope I'm not alone. Maybe type in the chat box how you feel about this, but I think everyone, it's hard to let go of something that you've worked hard for. And it's like, I can make it work. Like, to be in this business, you have to have a little hint of competitiveness or whatever it is. And it's like, no, I can make this work. But at some points we have to say, no, you have to cut your losses because there's a greater valley out there for you to explore. You know what I mean?
And I would also ask you why, you know, going back to where you're making emotional decisions from, like, why are you so tied to it? What is your fear of letting that go?
Yeah.
And address that. Anytime you can address the fear, you'll make better decisions.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Back to the spiral.
Again, there's like 4 things that I've learned from my mentors that I think, we all have success. Most of the businesses I've been able to accelerate that success, and making better decisions from a better emotional state helped me with that. In that business partnership, my fear was it would ruin our personal relationship, and it did. But, you know, honestly, that was for the better too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did ruin it. My fear came true, and I'm a better person. Yada, yada, yada. I'm in the back of an SUV in Quincy.
And it's great. Yeah. Okay. And somebody chimed in and said, I think it was Kathy, maybe. Oh, Kathy, can I share this? Oh my goodness. I had the exact same problem about 20 years ago. Romantic partner destroyed my real estate business because I was stupid and made him a partner. So and honestly, guys, if I was going to say my biggest real estate issue was not a romantic one, but it was a partnership that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So
before you get into those partnerships, understand what value does that person bring? Are they bringing something you don't already have? You know, I made the decision out of fear. I feared that it would ruin our personal relationship. So again, if I could have gone back in time, I would have said, this isn't a good idea. And maybe it would have hurt the relationship or not. Either way, it wouldn't have, you know, cost me 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Has anyone else had a bad partnership out there? If so, just give me a amen or a yes, or thank you, Denise, so I can actually see your face. Everyone else is just
probably with contractors. You know, again, like, let's not get emotionally tied to a contractor. You know, use your 6 critical documents. I've had a contractor that worked great for 3 years until one day he didn't. And so, you know, those 6 critical documents will lessen that blow when you have to end that relationship. So it could be a relationship on any level.
Yes. Yes, not just the romantic ones. LaDonna, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
how many different states have you done transactions in, we'll say?
Honestly, I think just three,
Okay.
California, Illinois, and Florida.
Okay. So, and she is traveling like what do you say? Like 100 days out of the year? Like, I don't know. You're like,
More. No, it's more than that. It's
you
probably
just,
more. It's,
yeah.
I don't know. It's almost all of
Are you
them.
home for even 100 days a year?
No, no.
I guess she could look because she Airbnbs her house also.
Yeah.
But so she, yeah, and it's a great little place. If you're ever visiting Naples, check out her
Oh
Airbnb,
my
her
God.
house. It's adorable. Okay, so back to the other question that was my
Okay.
back question. It was on deck. We were talking about fire ready aim, but we were also talking about important to do your due diligence. How do you find the line between do your due diligence, but also just do it?
Right.
Just fire ready aim.
Well, I mean, let's just go with making offers. You have an inspection contingency. Who cares if you get the offer right? Just get the offer out there. You can always fix it, terminate it, change it later. And I did that a lot. I can't tell you how many times I would make an offer, it would get accepted. And during the inspection contingency, there was something that came up, something with the title, something with the repairs. I typically didn't terminate. I would always give my sellers an option, an either or. So not focusing on yes or no, either or. Hey, during the inspection, one was as simple as it was a bank-owned property. And again, I'm negotiating with banks, and I don't care. Like, I know I said I wanted to offer this, but it was a bank-owned property, and they had that elaborate covering on the pool that you can't see what's under the pool. So during the inspection period, we actually got to see under the pool, and the pool need resurfaced. So I'm like, listen, I know we offered, $190,000, but now during the inspection, we realize that the pool needs to be repaired. It's going to be a cost of $10,000, and we think the house has termites. We would like to move forward with the contract at $180,000, or we're going to have to terminate. Your choice. So now we're focusing, like, not just yes or no. They came back at, I think they're like, oh, well, and I inflated the termite price. I think I inflated it by like $3,000. It was like a $600 fix. We negotiated back and forth, and we got like within $1,000, and they moved forward. So use those type, like if you're making offers, you have an inspection contingency. Unless you're making zero inspection contingency offers, then, deal with that. Talking with sellers, just talk to them. I had so many students like, oh my gosh, I sent out a direct mail campaign and a seller called me. Now what? Call them back. Like, literally, I'm like, my aunt, like, what do you mean now? I don't know what to do. I'm like, call them back and go through the seller lead sheet, ask them the questions, take a deep breath, walk away from the edge of the cliff. So, do your due diligence up front. We're always learning, learn your market so you can make decisions faster. So you can, make those decisions as quickly as possible, but then put things in place, like make the decision and know that you can change your mind. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. Also, just a reminder, if you aren't writing questions, you should be writing questions in the chat box. Okay, so LaDonna, you've accomplished an awesome amount of stuff. You're a goal setter. You chase after you have like this laser focus on your goals. What system or resource do you use to like laser focus on your goals?
Write this down, because this is like a multi-part answer.
Okay.
Stephen Covey, if you read again, I read a lot of books. I retain about 10% of what I read. Usually I retain like one good nugget from each book. Stephen Covey's rules for success is number 2 is start with the end in mind. You have to know where you're going. Like right now, I got in an SUV. I didn't just willy-nilly start driving down the road. I'm like, my destination is X. And so now I've got a little Google map. She tells me how long it's going to take to get there, when to turn left or right. I just start driving and, hope to figure it out. So to have a very clear focus, you have to start with the end in mind. Like you have to know where you're going, what your goals are. And again, these are what your goals are. So many students and clients pick goals because they hear other people's goals. Like, oh, I want to flip 50 houses this year. I'm like, well, why? I'm like, you know what that looks like? I'm like, tell me about your dream day. So this is what I came up with. For me to get laser focused, I came up with my perfect day. Again, a mentor taught me this. And They're like, write out what that day looks like from beginning to end. So start with just big bullet points. In my dream day, I want to spend time with family. I want to be by the ocean. I want to, give back to the community. I want to go to church, whatever those bullet points are, and then go back in and fill in the details. If you're spending the day with your kids, what does that look like? What activities are you doing? If you're giving back to the community, specifically, what are you doing? So I created my perfect day. Once I filled in all the activities, it was like 7 pages long. Write it out. There's a transfer of energy when you write things. Like typing, most of you are probably gonna I write on a computer and that's just what I do. Great. I'm telling you to write it out. You do you, but if you want to be successful, listen for a half a second. Write it out. There is a transfer of energy when you write things
She's
down.
like talking to me because we went to a 3-day conference together at this like cabin in Tennessee, and we sat next to each other, and she was like handwriting. I was like, why do you do that? Like, why don't you type it? And she's like, because there's a transfer of energy. And I'm like, I'm going to keep typing, but she does. Hey, she's an amazing woman. So maybe I should start to listen.
No, you do you. People journal with pens and papers, but you keep writing on your computer. It's all good. But get detailed to the point, like and again, time and money don't matter in this perfect day. So don't confine yourself to 24 hours. Don't confine yourself. Like I had one student, they were skiing in the mountains, and then they were jet skiing in Jamaica. And don't you can't be skiing in the mountain, then the next hour be jet. I'm like, stop being judgy. Like just whatever it is your perfect day looks like, write it out, but be detailed. Mine, I've done it a couple times now, but my first one very specifically, I don't like to wake up to alarms. I feel like I'm a daughter of Mother Nature. Like when the sun comes up, I'll get up. So my sleeping schedule changes with the seasons. I sleep later in the winter. I'm up earlier in the summer. But I wanted to wake up to the smell of bacon cooking. So in my perfect day, there was this like self-timer, I'd say like maybe an alarm clock that at a certain time the bacon started cooking. And then I woke up to the aroma of bacon. So it's like a baconator. And someone, again, judging my perfect day, like, well, why don't you just hire a chef? I'm like, well, in my perfect day, I don't want a stranger in my house, in my kitchen. I walk around in my underwear a lot. I just want to smell bacon. That's all I want. Yeah. So write out your perfect day. And, I had a mentor that had me do vision boards that just didn't motivate me enough. It was very one-dimensional. It didn't tell a story. And when we attach emotions to actions, that's when we really can accelerate our success. And so when you have a story, literally this perfect day, if you write it out, is a story. I woke up to the smell of bacon, and then I walked through my yard and looked at my garden while, drinking my coffee. And then the yoga instructor came over and we did hot yoga for an hour. Like, be very specific. Dream boards were just, to me, very one-dimensional and didn't piece together a story.
Yeah, I can see that.
Literally, when you attach emotion to it, that's when when you attach emotion to your desire, that's when you take action.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, step 1 is write out your perfect day. Be detailed. Start big. Just write anything down. Everything is possible. Just put, time, money doesn't matter, and then go back and backfill it. And what I found for my first, I'll give you an example if I've got time. My first perfect day, one of my things was I had rented a house in wine country, and I had some friends come over, and we went wine tasting all day. And then we came home. I call it a smash up, where you might have cheese or a pie or crackers. It's all like a smorgasbord on a table. And we're like talking about all the fabulous wine we were drinking while having our smash up. And it came true almost to the detail. So I had rented a house in Sonoma. I was there for 6 weeks. I had different friends come out. And one evening we're sitting on the patio. There's one of those little heat lamp things going. And I stopped for a second. I'm like, oh, I recognize this. I know this moment. I wrote this down 4 years ago. And it took 4 years for that, that day, for that moment to come to fruition. So to have a laser focus is you have to know where you're going. And detail. Again, like goals to me are just, bullet point goals don't do it. You gotta create a story. That's why we love movies. Yeah. That's why we read books, because, we can draw up that emotion and attach that emotion to it. So that's step 1.
Oh my God. Where you're going. Like, you're giving me the feels, you're giving me the chills. Like, I'm more of a crier than LaDonna is, but seriously, I want to cry because you're right. I love how you talked about I do. I've got my visualization board, but if it's just going to sit on a wall that you never ever see, then it's not doing anything, right? But once you get that emotional attachment, and there have been, like you said, and I hope you've all had this, and if not, you need to make it more clear in your mind what it looks like. But those moments of, I recognize this. Where do I recognize this from? Oh, that's right. This is my goal that I've talked about and I've dreamed about, and I knew I was going to get to this point. And there are moments that I have that, and I love when I have that on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. It's not just Saturday. I get to have that lifestyle by design, throughout the day.
And again, if you don't believe me, Think and Grow Rich, I would say my top 10 books, one of his first chapters is desire and manifesting that desire. And he tells you to, do it 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. So don't listen to me, listen to Napoleon Hill. I think he knows a thing or two.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Kathy said Wallace and Gromit. Have you ever seen that show?
I haven't.
Apparently it's a claymation show. There's only a few episodes, but he has a device that slides him into his breakfast chair and cooks his eggs and bacon for him. So the claymation has made it possible for you. Now we just have to make it like reality.
If it's on Amazon, I'll buy it tomorrow.
I mean, I think she said it might've been on Netflix, but just a heads up, Wallace and Gromit.
No, okay. I want the Baconator. I want to buy that tomorrow. Put it in the SUV because I don't have enough things in here.
Yes. Okay. So number one, start with the end of the mind, really have your dream day and be emotionally tied to it. What's number two?
I would actually, if I could, I would say number one is, so I learned the spiral of these four things. I learned the spiral of emotion last. I wish I would have learned it first. So I would say number one is start being aware of where you're making what emotion you're making decisions from. And if it's from somewhere, and that six or down, and I can share this with the group, however you want me to share it, that spiral, do a state change and go up the spiral. Because you'll make better decisions. So number two would be know where you're, Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind, know where you're going, but do it. My vehicle was creating a perfect day, and in detail, because I said storytelling resonates with us so much more than a flat one-dimensional, vision board.
Yeah.
So number three is, now that we know where we're going, where are we? Like where are we right now? So another mentor shared with me, it's called a wealth calculator. And basically it was an Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty simple, but basically what it did, and it was a perfect timing for me to get it, because it was like, how much passive income are you generating? And it would take all your expenses, mortgage, whatever, car payments, taxes, insurance, all that fun, mani-pedis, whatever you're spending money on. It would take, it didn't care about your active income, but it would take all your passive income. Did you write a song and you're getting royalties? Do you have dividends? Do you have rental properties? Things that this group knows well about. And so it would take that, and then it would how much do you need to live on? And so, at the bottom, what it would give, and I can share this with the group as well. I even did a little training video on it. But at the bottom was it would take that information. How much are you spending? How much is your passive income? How much do you need to live on? So if you have money sitting in the bank, if you got money just sitting in a savings account or a mutual fund or an IRA, that counts. But just know that if you've got a monthly expense, you're chipping away at it. So what are your monthly expenses? What's your money that you have sitting around? Equity in your house doesn't count because you have to live somewhere. Equity in your car doesn't count because you probably need a car to drive. So we can't count those things. We can count money sitting in accounts. But at the very bottom, it would calculate, and the title was number of years to live. So if you got hit by a bus today and you had this much money in accounts that you could liquidate, and you have this much expenses, and you have this much passive income coming in, this is how long you'll live off your current environment. And the first time I did it, Milani, it was 0.8. So that meant I had 8 months. I didn't even get to a year, 0.8.
Yeah.
So that was very eye-opening to me, because I was doing rehabs and flipping at the time. And I just didn't understand the purpose of buying a rental property that was going to throw off $300 cash. I'm like, I would rather go do a rehab that's going to make $30,000 cash. Why would I waste my time on this piddly $300? But that was an eye-opener for me, because it really switched my mindset to, I've got to start buying more. I got to spend more time in passive income world. I've got to start building my passive income portfolio. And again, on my dream day, my perfect day, when I went back and looked at it, I wasn't working. There was no mention of, I'm going to go to the office or I'm going to check in on contractors. Like I was too busy doing all this other stuff. So, you know, how am I going to pay for this perfect day if my perfect day I'm not working? So I needed passive income coming in. So the other, you know, that was the kind of the upside of it. And as you know, last year I ruptured my Achilles tendon.
Yes.
And so there's going to be life. We never plan. There's a great insurance company that I love. Like you don't plan, you have insurance, but you don't really plan for something bad to happen. And you don't get to time it. You don't get to decide when it happens. But when that happened to me, I physically couldn't walk for 3 months. And so I was, you know, which to me meant I couldn't travel. But actually what it meant was like, if I had had a job where I had to show up and, you know, and clock in, I was screwed. Because I had now injured myself to the point where I couldn't, you know, I could move, I could get out of bed. It was like even making like dinner for me was a struggle because you move around. Like I literally stopped myself from walking. And then after those 3 months, I had to learn how to walk again. So I spent 2 more months in physical therapy learning how to walk again. And the gratitude I had from that was at least I, you know, not that I will this on anybody, but at least I had set myself in a position where something like this could happen to me. You know, yeah. We want to talk about the perfect day and going and tasting wine and hanging out with our kids and doing charitable things, but you might have a situation where, you know, you get injured or you, like I have a girlfriend the same year, her mother, you know, became very, very sick. She hopped on a plane and went and helped her mother for 6 weeks because she was in a position that she could. Yeah. So we've got to not think always like, oh, well, I don't want to go taste wine or I don't want to get back to the community. You need to be better prepared with passive income because so
let's pause on that because this is so important. Let's talk about just real quick, some of the vehicles that you recommend or that you've used for getting your passive income or that
rental properties.
So,
short answer.
I was going to say, which we're going to dive into after this, but LaDonna is a big rental properties, long-term, except for your own property, your own house is the only one you short-term, right?
No, I have another one.
Oh, you do? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's talk. That's cool. Okay. So yeah, this, when somebody asked the question of, you know, what different vehicles LaDonna's, living her life, would you say because of,
right. There's honestly, there's so many vehicles and I've spent more time, like this is what I know real estate. So this is all I can speak intelligently to, but there are, you know, there are other investment opportunities that are passive. You know, I just learned yesterday, there's a website called Flippa where you can flip websites. Like you buy a website for let's say you buy a website for $5,000, you improve the revenue stream and you sell the website for $25,000. Or you keep the website and improve the revenue stream and keep the passive income. So like there's, you know, you can probably wholesale or flip anything. I just learned there's specific platforms for flipping websites.
Yeah.
So you figure out what's good for you. I'm not I can't even say it, technologically savvy. So I don't think flipping websites is probably going to be my jam. Yeah. But like me, it's just what I knew was real estate. And I was in a market where, you know, we were going through a real estate crash. And so there was a lot of opportunities. And I just took advantage of opportunities to start building a rental portfolio. And going back to that wealth calculator, you're financially free as soon as you have more income coming in than you have going out. So if you can live on $3,000 a month, you're financially free as soon as you have $3,100 a month coming in. We're not talking about, you know, yachts and G6s. It's whatever, again, what do you want? What does your lifestyle look like? I feel like I'm pretty, I don't know, conservative until I'm not. Until I do something like, but anyway, in general, I'm pretty conservative with my lifestyle. So it doesn't take a lot to cover my expenses until I want to do something extravagant.
Yeah. And you said you have a training that I can share on your wealth calculator because I love that training.
Yeah, I just did it. It's a super easy, very, like I said, simple spreadsheet. I can share with you and you can share with the group the spreadsheet. I did a quick YouTube video on how to complete it. I mean, it'll take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And again, just to know where are you in your goals? And it was not, for me, what was fun, and this is where I can get like super focused, was I was at point 8. And so then I'd buy a rental property and I'd put it in the spreadsheet and I'd calculate like how much cash flow it was. And I'd move to 1.6. I'm like, oh, we're getting somewhere. And then I'd buy a rental property and I'd put it in the spreadsheet. And now I'm up to 2.5 years. I'm like, so like, that was like very, again, kind of where I say laser focus on how it helped me get to my goal. And then I got to, sorry, I got excited. And then I got to a point where the income that I had in there, I thought it would take to live on, I met it. So now I'm making more. So I'm like, well, I can't live on this income. I need more income. So then I upped my income, and then I had to, up my passive income.
Yeah. I remember the first time, that's how the first coaching session I saw with you, the first speaking engagement, was you going through that. And it's so basic, and
it's so basic.
It's so basic, but at the same time, how come it was so mind blowing also? You know what I mean? So I'll definitely send it out.
Well,
I think it's huge.
I'm saying real quick, I think the reason it was mind blowing for me, because up until that point, we were taught your net worth. And your net worth doesn't really mean much if it's based on your active income or, equity in things that you need to use, like cars or houses. Like you could have 20 cars, and maybe you got well, if you had 20 cars, you don't need 20 cars. So you could sell 19. So, okay, let's say you have a big ass house. You got I saw that, a $3 million house that you're living in, and maybe it's got $1 million worth of equity, but if you sell the house, you still have to live somewhere. So are you going to downsize? Are you going to change your lifestyle? So that's all. Net worth versus actual passive income.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Okay. Number 4.
Oh, accountability groups.
Mm.
So I'm not very, I'd say, self-motivated. I've always needed a coach or a mentor or some sort of accountability. So most of the time I would have all the above. I've been in more than one accountability group at one time, being accountable for different things. I've probably been like 3 accountability groups at once while having a coach. And that, again, just helps keep you laser focused. It moves the needle forward. Like when I have to check in with my accountability group every Tuesday at 5 p.m. on what I did the week before, you don't miss a gap of time. You don't goof off as long because you're like, I've got to check in, and I don't want to be the person that sends in, I didn't do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
So accountability groups on multiple levels, and a coach or a mentor, like just constantly making sure you're moving the needle forward, pushing you. When I go to the gym by myself, I'll do like 6 exercise, high five myself, and go have a donut. Like, great job, LaDonna, you nailed it.
Or McDonald's fries.
Yeah, but when I have a personal trainer, one of the last personal trainers I had, he would make me work out in the section of the gym where there wasn't a clock, because he saw me constantly looking. I'm like, I've been here like 12 minutes. Like, are we done yet? And so he's like, I'm just going to like move you to the gym where you can't see what time it is. Because then I was like, well, what, are we done yet? How about now? And he's like, no, we got 3 more exercises. I'm like, don't even tell me that. Just tell me we have 1 more. So you tell me 3. I just want to like throw a temper tantrum on the floor. But I would say 10x amount that I would do with a personal trainer than I would do myself.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about, we all have successful mindsets, but how can we accelerate that? And the accountability groups and the coaches and mentors accelerates it.
I love it. Do you do any, because I know that some people are like, yeah, I love accountability groups. Other people, it's like, some people pay a lot of money to be in accountability groups. What do you feel about paid accountability groups?
It's the paid accountability groups is part of accountability. Like me going to the gym, me paying the $50 a month to go to the gym got me there a couple of days a week. Me going to meet a personal trainer that I'm now paying $100 a visit 3 times a week got me there every single time, because now I'm meeting someone and I'm paying to meet them, and it's wasting money if I don't go.
Yeah. No, it's true. The first time I was like, oh, well, there are, free accountability.
Yeah, there's YouTube videos too. I mean, there's,
Yeah, there's all of that. And I was doing free accountability groups, but then it was like, oh my goodness, I really need to step up my game. And the people that are in this accountability group, they're all doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And so then I started paying, and it definitely, I mean, it put me, I feel like, in a higher, ball game. Like, oh, okay, now I'm in the big leagues now. It's not just a farm team,
I mean, I would say everybody in this group knows what to do. We all know how to diet. We all know how to do the real estate business. Do we want to excel at it? Do we want to, warp that time? And that's where accountability groups or mentors come in and warp that time.
Yeah. And I think that's also part of TREIA is that I know of a lot of different accountability groups that have been formed from this group, from the people you meet at Prestonwood when we do meet, or in the Facebook group. There are great people out there. Form an accountability group. I think that's awesome. All right, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do have a couple more questions and
Sure.
then we'll wrap up. If there's any other questions that you want to type in for LaDonna, type them in and we'll get them answered. Let's hit a little bit about your rental properties, your past stream of passive income. Tell us a little bit about, you are doing a lot more of turnkey now, is that right? And tell us what that is and how you're doing that.
Okay, so actually what I do now is I got so passionate about helping people live, the lifestyle that they want, to be who they want, is mainly who I'm working with now are, I'd say, professionals who, they're making a great income, they're making more than six figures, but they're grinding out. They're the true rat race type of people. Examples are, a lot of times they might be business owners. Like one of my clients, he owns physical therapy clinics. Another one of my clients, he's a naval officer. So they have these 9-to-5 type of jobs. If they're business owners, it's more than 9 to 5. So they're grinding out doing the rat race. And, one of the questions they would always ask me, the reasons they typically become my client is like, well, how is it I wish I could do what you do, just travel around and do whatever you want to do. I'm like, you could, you just have to make better decisions. And I can help you with that. So I give them some education. I talk a lot about the wealth calculator and the perfect day. Like, what is the goal that we're actually trying to achieve? I walk them through some very basic real estate knowledge. They need to go do what they do. They need to be, the cybersecurity officer. I need to give them enough information about real estate, and then I put them in the hands of professionals. These are people in my network, and we get them to buy turnkey rental properties around the country. So I give them the education, and then I give them the connection. Example, one of my clients lives in San Diego. California is not a very good place to buy. Like, it's one of my least favorites. So to go in his backyard and buy properties just isn't going to work. So I connect him with people who have turnkey rental operations, where literally you look at the house, you look at the price, you look at the cash flow. I only pick markets and work with people in markets that are, Florida right now, we've appreciated too much. It's a tough market to be a good cash flow property. So we're in markets like Louisville, St. Louis, Birmingham, Huntsville, Kansas, Wichita Falls, where they're steady. There's a good employment base. The business models, like my turnkey rental provider in Louisville, he's in B neighborhoods. He's renting to nurses. There's a lot of industries that are based there. Like right now, I think the month of April, he collected 98% of his rents. He's not worried. He's not dealing with entertainment or, some of the industries that got hit during this coronavirus. So he's established a really good rental market and collected 98% of his rents in April. So I help those professionals start building passive income.
I love that.
Or anybody that wants to.
Yeah. The last question we had I think we've covered it now, but it was, what does lifestyle by design mean to you?
And it's really, what it means to me is it's going to be different for each person. So I did think I've covered, like, it's whatever you want. Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story, Milani. So I was getting all passionate and excited about this and trying to explain lifestyle by design. And the girl I was talking to, I'm like, literally, it doesn't mean you have to have, I use it now at yachts and G6s. I'm like, you could go be a fairy in the woods if that's what you want. And she looked at me and she's like, did you just say fairy in the woods? I'm like, yeah. She's like, my name is Sylvia. And that's what it means. Like, the meaning of the word Sylvia is fairy in the woods. I'm like, Sylvia, I have never used this fairy in the woods analogy before, ever. And the fact that that's what came out of my face today in front of you. So I'm like, oh, you got to be careful. I had to look it up on the phone. I'm like, sure enough, it means fairy in the woods. So if that's what you want, again, maybe your lifestyle by design is a 3,000, a 5,000, a 10,000, a 20,000. It's whatever you truly want that will truly make you happy, that will make you feel fulfilled. That if, if world was to end in a week, you what, I'm doing what I want to do. It's that for you. And it could be any dollar amount.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Any more questions coming through? We'll give it one more minute. Just a heads up. Next month we have Tamara Aragon from California coming to speak. She is called the Flipping Queen. She's done over 500 real estate transactions. She's awesome. And the topic, I can't remember what we decided the topic was, because there was like, well, where do you want to go with this? So if you have anything that you want to ask, then email me at Melanie@whynotme.Airbnb, or to, one of the TREIA addresses. It'll probably get to me, maybe. I don't know. They'll forward it on. But we decided on a topic, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So that will be the second Friday in July. Looking forward to it. Hoping you all come back. Any last questions for LaDonna? It looks like we're good. LaDonna, any part? Oh, Kathy, what is it?
We just got one. What's your portfolio of your long-term and short-term properties? Like 80%, 20%?
I've 5% short-term.
5% short-term.
Yeah.
Because I haven't convinced her yet. No,
you have. Come down. Come down. We talked about come to Naples. Let's take over. It's a great market for it.
So y'all, I would just like to say that this was Melanie and LaDonna. Thank you. This was awesome. And you guys, what she's saying, lifestyle by design, is so true. It's like manifesting your future. I don't know how many of you know me very well. Some of you know me well, some of you don't. But of course, I practice law and I run a real estate business. But I also manage bands. And a few years ago, I managed one band.
I had no idea. I had no idea, Kathy.
One band, and I went around, like, this is what my attitude, and this is what LaDonna's talking about, y'all. It's exactly what happened to me. I would go around all the time saying, like, Eeyore, like hangdog, like, well, you know, what I really want to do is manage bands. And it was just like a tagline that I said. And one day I realized, you know what? You're just saying that. Like, you aren't really thinking about it. If that's really what you want to do, why don't you do it? Like, you can do it. So I have kids in college and mortgages, so it's not like I can give up the real estate and the law practice. But from that day forward, I went out and I hired 2 new attorneys. And before, when I had new attorneys, I would train them to do other things than not real estate closings. This time, I trained them also to do real estate. So that freed me up more time. And then I went and hired 2 more band managers. From that, I built my band management business. We now manage 10 bands. And it's just all because one day I realized I'm just saying words, and it just really is what I wanted, but I wasn't doing anything about it. I was just like, oh, I really want to manage bands, but I got to practice law. I'm like, damn, girl, go out and do it. You can do it. If you manifest it, if you plan your lifestyle by design, you can do it. And that's exactly what LaDonna's saying. Thank you, LaDonna. That was so awesome.
You're welcome. I'll be happy to come back and do an outsourcing pre-sale.
I was going to say, LaDonna will geek out on that too, because that's another thing that I've heard her preach on, and I love outsourcing, and Kathy just gave a perfect example of that. I love how you talked about, Kathy, like, for me, it was this wake-up call that I was asking my kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then this realization of, why am I even asking that if I'm not going to be the example of doing what I want when I grow up? Like, and it was, this was 7 years ago, and I was stuck in a dead end sales job, whatever. But you guys, it's not too late to design your life.
Never too late. And what's your trigger? What is your trigger? For Melanie, it was her kids.
Yeah.
For LaDonna, it was planning her perfect day. For me, it was like realizing that I was being a nudge by just going around saying something I didn't mean. What is your trigger? Everyone has one.
Yeah.
A nudge.
Love it, love it.
And just put in the chat our upcoming meetings for next week. We have the main meeting. We have a super awesome panel for you. It's all about doing business in the time of COVID. We have the Wake County Register of Deeds, Charles Gilliam. He's going to give us actual Wake County numbers. We have Robin Thompson, the queen of rehab, and she's going to talk about locating profitable deals and distressed properties during this time. Mike Jacka, who is the designer of our TREIA website and from MinREIA, he does properties all over the country, and he's going to talk about creative deals in the time of COVID. Robert Mohan is from Nashville REIA, and he's going to talk about building your portfolio, no matter if you're a beginner or experienced, how to do it in COVID. So that's Tuesday, don't miss it. And then for millennials on Thursday, we're going to have a case study that I'm actually going to do on what to do when your deals go wrong and lessons learned.
Oh, awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Kathy. That was awesome. Thank you, LaDonna. Always love you. And
thank you for having me.
maybe we will have you come out next time you're, just randomly in an SUV and end up in North Carolina. Let us know, and we'll treat you to Prestonwood.
It's happening.
I'm so excited. We'll talk
You're on a road trip. Come on.
It's part of the road trip.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, guys. We will see you next month, or hopefully on Tuesday or Thursday.
Or both.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, LaDonna. Drive safe.
Thank you.